Riley Cross walked into the rusted anchor bar like a shadow cutting through the neon haze. It was the kind of place where time forgot to visit: smoke-stained walls, broken jukebox, and men who wore silence like armor. She didn't belong there, at least not anymore. But tonight wasn't about belonging. It was about answers. Her leather jacket still smelled of rain and gasoline. The city outside of Blackridge was pulsing with midnight energy, a place where lost souls came to disappear. And Riley had become an expert at that. She'd spent years running from the ghost of her past, but ghosts have a way of finding you when the drinks are strong and the memories louder. Across the bar, a group of men laughed, the kind of laugh that tested your patience. Their uniforms long traded for tattoos and beer guts, they were XSALS, the kind who never stopped measuring worth in bruises. One of them looked at her, eyes narrowing, grin turning sharp. "You lost, sweetheart?" he asked without saying a word. Riley didn't answer. She didn't need to. The calm in her eyes was the kind that always preceded a storm. The bartender, a worn-out man named Dax, slid her a glass without asking. He remembered her. Everyone did. The woman who disappeared 5 years ago after that mission in the Gulf, the one that left more questions than bodies. Rumors said she'd quit the agency. Others whispered she'd gone rogue. Only Riley knew the truth: she hadn't quit. She'd been cut loose, framed, and forgotten. But tonight, the past walked right back into her crosshairs. She felt it before she saw him, Marcus Vance. The ex-SEAL who had once called her partner, who now worked for the people who ruined her life. He walked in with that same confident stride, that same crooked smile. The room seemed to shrink when their eyes met. Riley Cross, his smirk said everything words couldn't. Still chasing ghosts? She sipped her drink, steady. Every fiber in her body wanted to move, to end this here. But patience was her weapon. The bar watched silently, waiting for the explosion they knew was coming. Then came the laugh, that sharp, cutting laugh that shattered the moment. One of the SEALs at the pool table jeered, mimicking her stance, pretending to fight invisible enemies. "Look at this one," he said, his tone thick with mockery. "You used to be someone, huh? What happened, Cross? Lose your nerve?" Riley didn't turn. She just breathed, slow, even. The kind of breath that soldiers take before pulling a trigger. When she finally stood, the air shifted. Boots scuffed the floor. The jukebox hummed, lights flickered. And before anyone could blink, she moved, a blur of precision and silence. One twist, one pivot, one brutal takedown. The SEAL was on the ground, staring up at the ceiling, wind knocked clean out of him. The bar froze. Dax stopped polishing the glass. The man groaned, clutching his ribs, disbelief in his eyes. She hadn't even spilled her drink. Marcus chuckled low, almost impressed. "Still fast," he said. "Still angry." She turned, eyes cold. "Still breathing," she replied in silence. The tension could have cut steel. The SEAL on the floor coughed, muttering curses, but Riley wasn't paying attention. Her eyes stayed locked on Marcus, the man who'd once saved her life and later destroyed it. The man who knew why she'd been burned by her own agency. He raised his glass like a toast. "You know why I'm here, Riley. They want the drive. You give it up, and maybe they let you live." But Riley Cross had already buried that part of herself, the one that negotiated, the one that trusted. Tonight wasn't about surviving. It was about ending this. Outside, thunder cracked. The storm was rolling in, same as the one building inside her. She remembered her father's words, the only man who believed in her after the military chewed her up and spat her out. "Courage," he'd said, "isn't about not being afraid. It's about standing tall when you've got every reason to fall." And that was exactly what she planned to do. She tossed a few bills on the counter and walked out into the rain, leaving the silence behind. Marcus followed, the others trailing like wolves sensing blood. The alley behind the bar was narrow, slick with oil and rainwater, lit by the dim glow of a single neon sign. Riley stopped in the center, her silhouette framed against the storm. Marcus stepped forward, voice calm, dangerous. "You can't win this." She smirked, faint but defiant. I already did. The moment I stopped running. The fight that followed wasn't a brawl, it was art in motion. Riley moved with precision born of pain and training, every strike efficient, every counter brutal. 2 men down, then 3. The fourth tried to blindside her, but she dropped low, spinning, disarming him in one motion. The gun slid across the wet pavement, useless. Marcus watched, the ghost of admiration flickering in his eyes. He drew his own weapon, but Riley was faster. The tables had turned. For a heartbeat, everything stopped, rain falling, breaths heavy, hearts racing. The barrel of her gun pointed straight at him. He smiled, even then. You won't do it. Riley's finger tightened on the trigger, then eased off. You're right, she said softly. But they will. From the shadows, headlights flared, 2 SUVs blocking the alley. A team emerged, tactical gear glinting under the rain. Not hers. Not his. A third player had entered the game. The gunfire erupted like thunder. Riley dove behind cover, rolling through puddles, bullets slicing the air where she'd been seconds ago. Marcus returned fire, shouting orders, but it was chaos. The newcomers were organized, efficient, too efficient. Whoever they were, they knew both of them were liabilities. And that's when Riley realized they weren't here for Marcus. They were here for her. She sprinted through the alley, vaulting over debris, adrenaline pounding in her chest. Marcus followed, covering her flank without thinking. Old instincts die hard. For a brief moment, they were partners again, back to back in the storm. By the time the smoke cleared, only the 2 of them remained standing. The SUVs burned behind them, the rain hissing against the flames. Marcus looked at her, chest heaving. You always bring trouble, Cross. She half smiled. You showed up. But before he could reply, she slipped a small flash drive into his hand. Take it, she said. Proof of everything they did. The names, the ops, all of it. He looked down, confused. Why me? Because you still have a chance to make it right, she said. I don't. And then she was gone, swallowed by the night, leaving only rain and memory in her wake. Days later, news broke across every channel. Corruption. Cover-ups. A conspiracy buried deep in the defense network. Anonymous leaks. Justice in motion. But no one knew who started it. Marcus did. And somewhere out there, Riley Cross was watching, another ghost in the city that never forgave. They laughed at her in the bar once. But now, her name carried weight again, whispered by soldiers, respected by those who once mocked her. She had become something else entirely, a legend written in silence. So if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been laughed at for standing your ground, remember Riley Cross. Remember that courage isn't about noise, it's about never backing down, even when the world turns its back. And now, tell me, from which part of the country are you watching this story unfold?